the last time I was in a hospital for 2 weeks, Terry, every day he called me, came to see me 3 times, called me. I still have messages on my phone right now when I couldn't answer. But he was the real deal. If you were Terry's friend, you were his friend for life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special Apter chat with someone I've known since he was a teenager, probably.
Yes.
B. Brian Blair, welcome to the Apter chat.
Thank you, Bill. It's always a pleasure to be anywhere with you, whether it's on a Zoom call or live in a room, which I prefer, but this Zoom call is fine.
I appreciate that. By the way, people always say to me, what does the B and B Brian Blair stand for?
Well, that was my nickname. And one time, Vince Sr., the second time I was coming back to WWF? Anyway.
WF, yeah.
He said, Brian, why did they call you B or Bieber or Beep or it's something with a B? I said, well, my mother told Buddy Colt, called him and told him before my first match not to, her nickname for me was Bieber. And she called Buddy and said, don't let those guys hurt my Bieber. And Buddy went in, and Dusty Rhodes and the Briscoes and all these guys were at Championship Wrestling from Florida at 106 North Albany Street getting ready to tape.
I was there pretty regularly.
Yes, many times. And so Dusty's got his feet up on the desk like usual, and the guys are all around kibitzing, and Buddy comes in there and says, hey, guys, Mrs. Blair just called me and said, don't let anybody hurt her Bieber. And they start laughing, and Dusty goes, Bieber, God damn, Bieber, how you get a name like Bieber? So anyway, that kind of carried on. If you will. And so Vince calls, and he said, hey, why did they call you? We're on the phone getting ready to come back to New York. And he said, Brian Blair, I like Brian Blair, but I got a phone book here. I don't know which phone book he had, probably the New York. He said, there's lots of Brian Blairs here, but there's no B. Brian Blair. Why don't you be B. Brian Blair? And I said, that's fine. He said, yeah, that's more catchy, B. Brian Blair. I said, you're the boss. Yes, sir. And so that's how B. Brian Blair really came about.
Look what happened to Bieber. Justin took that name.
Yeah, Justin took that name.
Right, and multi-trillionaire. So, yeah.
Well, I had that name first.
I want to talk to you, of course, about a buddy of both you and me. And where did your friendship start with him?
At a lounge called The Other Place, the OP. I would sneak in there when I was 17, and I said hello to him at the wrestling matches, and he said hello back because he was a great big guy. Then I found out from some of the people around at the Armory that he was playing in the band Ruckus, and it was he was very noticeable in the crowd because he would heckle the heels a lot, and he looked better than the wrestlers in the ring. So I happened to want to go to the Other Place lounge, and I finagled my way in there and met him again the second time when he was on break, and he was really nice to me, very, very nice to me. And we talked about wrestling. I told him how much I liked the band, and the band was awesome, Ruckus, and he was in these big platform heels and had his mama's jewelry on and playing that bass guitar with the suntan and the long hair. And it was great. I enjoyed it so much. And lo and behold, then we'd see each other at the matches. And I started with Matsuda when I was just getting out of high school. I hadn't even.
Now that just for the fans that are watching this who doesn't know who Matsuda was, that was Hiro Matsuda, who was not just a fabulous wrestler, but he broke the guys in. He tested you all out.
Exactly, Bill. He was the master of the dungeon, and it was a dungeon. It was very hot. It was over 100 degrees, no air conditioner. Um, Once in a while, they would turn on the fan, but that was very, very seldom. They only did that usually when they filled it for TV. Hero liked it really hot, and the big ring light. Remember that big? I don't know how many watt that bulb is. That, but it's a lot of wattage, uh, and it puts off a lot of heat. And we got up to doing 500 Hindu squats, sets of 100, 500 push-ups. Then we would wrestle amateur style until we had no more gas in us. And Hero would come and he'd stretch us. He'd put us in holds that, your body just weren't meant to turn that way. Yeah. And other guys.
That's who Hiro Matsuda was, yes, for the people who might not know.
Yes. And so then comes Terry. He was the second guy to come in, and Orndorff came. During the 3.5 summers, I was training with Mr. Matsuda, Hiro Matsuda, in Tampa at the Sportatorium, we called it. Probably, well over 100 people tried to break into wrestling, including a lot of guys that eventually broke in, but it was so difficult that everybody would leave. And the only 3 that made it through those 3+ summers were Hogan and Orndorff and myself.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. What, he changed the business 2 times. It wasn't just the original rep, but this guy too. I mean, whoever thought, were you, back in when Hulkamania took off and you were around it so much and you were around him personally so much, did you ever think that somebody could do this twice and change the whole business?
Yes. And okay. I was around him a lot during that time. I gave Vince my notice. By the way, Vince and Triple H both did a tremendous job at Terry's memorial.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that after we discuss.
And, Terry always had that fire in him. I mean, he still, to his last breath, dreamed about going back in the ring again. One more. And, I have a saying, you can take the wrestler out of the ring, but you'll never take the ring out of the wrestler. And, once you're in the business for a while and you've made a living in it and you're used to the lifestyle of the wrestling industry, it's hard to get away from it.
It's in our blood.
I gave Vince my notice in Salisbury, Maryland, and he didn't want me to go, but I could see they had promised us the belts 3 times as the Killer Bees, and one time it was Dynamite's fault. And the other times the office was, there's more money in the chase right now. You guys are over, blah blah. You don't need the belts. There was always an excuse. So I gave him my notice, and I decided to open up Gold's Gyms, and Terry did. I opened up one, then another, then another, then another. Terry did all 4 of my Gold's Gyms grand openings. Him and Mr. Wonderful and my brother Kevin were my best men in my wedding. Terry did so many commercials for us, and Macho Man. We were so successful in the Gold's Gym industry, and I was still wrestling. I would go to Japan, or I would wrestle independents, and it was amazing how hot the independent circuit was. But Terry always had that fire. He always said, "Hey, man, well, why don't you leave here and I'll get you back. We'll go back and do something with Vince and hang together." And I was pretty content in my life doing what I was doing, but we never ever stopped being friends. I mean, Terry was such a good friend. I had 4 back operations, actually 5, but the last 4 were fairly recent. And the last time I was in a hospital for 2 weeks, Terry, every day, he called me, came to see me 3 times, called me. I still have messages on my phone right now when I couldn't answer. But he was the real deal. If you were Terry's friend, you were his friend for life. I mean, as long as you didn't I never borrowed a dime from him. I wanted to do more for him than I did, but I was there for him always when him and Linda got a divorce and just things that were very difficult on him. I would always try to be there for him, and he was absolutely there for me every time I needed him.
Tell us about people are curious. What did Vince McMahon have to say? And were people surprised that he was there?
I don't think people were surprised. They weren't sure he was there because Vince made his. He didn't really hang out with anybody, whereas Hunter did. And it was very nice of the WWE. They brought many of the boys, and they treated us like gold. Everybody.
Sure. What did Vince have to say when he spoke?
He spoke for, I would say, a minute, 2 minutes, probably 2 minutes, and he got the whole. He got everybody up for a standing ovation for Terry, and then he got the whole place going, Hogan, 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 and it was awesome. Vince was awesome. He was excellent. I mean, he really, and it was heartfelt from Vince. And to be honest with you, the next time you look at Vince, you got to tell me if he does not look like Ronald Reagan. He reminds me so much of Ronald Reagan right now. It's unbelievable. As he's aged slowly, but he looks good, very good for his age. He's got a birthday coming up on August 24th. He'll be 80 years old, and he looks tremendous. Really does. And I tell you, Hunter's speech was absolutely fantastic, heartfelt, and the only other.
What would you say? Just as I asked you with Nick, what would you say with both Vince and Hunter? What the most moving point of what they said was?
Well, I just told you Vince's. Nick's was obviously the bond. Yeah. Between him and his dad.
Yeah, you had mentioned that. What about Hunter?
Hunter encapsulated what Terry meant to the business, what he meant to everybody that ever knew him. Hunter's speech was all encompassing. He had pretty much Terry's life in the wrestling industry. So it was awesome. He talked about how for two companies, he built two companies. He doesn't pull any punches on the fact that WCW, almost took over. Yep. And of course, Eric was there. And I like Eric. Eric, we don't realize that, but that a lot of people say negative things about Eric. But he, if it wasn't for Eric, the boys wouldn't be making the money they make now. Mm-hmm. He might have wasted a lot of Ted Turner's money, but at least it went to the boys. Right. Right. So I have no qualms over that. And they created one of the New World Order. That was one of the hottest. It was magic. It was magic. Yes. Did Jimmy Hart get up and speak? Yes, he was the other one that got up and spoke very briefly. Jimmy was good too. Ben Bo, his manager, read the letter from President Trump. A wonderful letter from President Trump to Terry, and that's just what he did. I mean, he got up and read the. A lot of people thought that President Trump actually was there. So, no, he was not there. Right. He was there in spirit, and very nice, heartfelt note, and they became very, very close friends. I mean, I know some things that I can't even say right here that are very moving, but I'd rather not. And I just say this, that Trump and Terry have known each other for a long time because, Trump's in the WWE Hall of Fame, and he's. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And obviously he was around Terry. So before he was there for, the WrestleMania 4. Trump actually put the when I was bleeding, I hit the post. Nobody's watching me; they're all watching the Battle Royal. And when we were in New Jersey,
This was at Trump Hotel in Atlantic City.
yes, sir. And I'm trying to get some help, and this guy in a suit, nice dressed guy in a suit, comes up with a towel, a handkerchief, and says, "Here, you're bleeding bad." And he puts it on me and said, "I'm calling the ambulance for you right now." I said, "Well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate it." And I didn't even realize it was Donald Trump.
Wow.
So people told me, hey, that was, but he was to me then just a rich guy that owned the casino, and I knew enough rich guys. It didn't mean that much to me, but in hindsight, it just shows what a caring guy he was. I mean, there's a lot of other people that could have got up and helped me, but he did.
Yeah.